everybody, it's Megan from 7 Acre here, and today we're going to be making some pie crust. Pie crust is one of the most important parts of 7 Acre desserts, and it's all made in-house. And today you're going to get to learn to do the same thing. I'm going to teach you a couple important tips and tricks to making a successful pie crust. One of the most important things I have here is a scale. You can find that online, 18 bucks, and a scale is going to change the way you bake at home. It is one of the single most important tools that I use in all of my baking. So far I have measured out my 15 ounces of flour. And then into that, I'm going to put a tablespoon of sugar, a teaspoon of salt, and a quarter teaspoon of baking powder. The reason we put baking powder in here is that it makes a flaky pie crust. We have a couple things that are going to solidify that at home you get those perfect results, and baking powder is one of those. And another method we're doing here is we're using a food processor. A lot of people will cut the butter in with a fork, and while that works, this is easier. We're all about saving time here. So you have your 15 ounces of flour, your sugar, your baking powder, and your salt. You're going to put in your 3 ounces of shortening. I do not refrigerate my shortening before I put that in. So now we're going to do just a couple pulses. Once it's incorporated, that's great. The shortening doesn't matter as much. Next, we'll put in butter. My butter has been cut. It is 2 sticks of butter. I have cut that into small pieces. You want them all to be even. And as you're putting them into the food processor, break them up so that there's not too many chunks stuck together. You want all of your fats to be cold as well when you make a crust. That way they're not melting. That helps with the flaky crust aspect. All right. Now let's see, you want it to be almost like little pea-sized chunks. We're gonna do just 2 to 3 more pulses to get that to the right consistency. All right, and that's fabulous. Now we will add in the water. When you're adding water, you want that to be cold as well. So you put your, if you've never used a scale before, you put your bowl on your scale, you zero it out, and then you slowly add in water. I add ice to mine, and then as you're pouring it in, just make sure that you are not getting ice. Water is one of those things that essentially every time I do it, I get too much. And you want it to be between 3.5 ounces and 4. I generally do right in the middle at 3.8. There we go. All right, and then into this, we also add vinegar. Vinegar is my top secret ingredient. I use apple cider vinegar, and vinegar actually prevents gluten from forming. So unlike many other desserts, you do not want your gluten to form in your pie crust. That takes away from the flakiness, and we are down with a flaky, delicious pie crust. All right, so now we pour this in. Slowly as you're pulsing. I like to give my food processor a couple good shakes. Oh, and now it's unplugged. My food processor came unplugged, but we're back at it again. I give it a good couple shakes. You don't want to over mix it too much. That is another way that gluten is formed. You kind of want it to be almost like cottage cheese, a little bit less than that. So now we pour that out onto our table. Flour your table a little bit. If you're at home and you're doing this on a granite countertop, you're gonna find that you need a lot more flour. I really like rolling out on wood. If you have a wood cutting board, that is great. You can always flip that over and roll that out as well. And we want to work as little as possible with this dough because as your hot hands touch a cold dough, that's how your butter starts melting. So we're really just trying to get this together. All right, so now cut that in half. This makes 2 pie crusts. If you're at home and you have a much smaller food processor, you can cut this recipe in half and you will get fabulous results. Don't overload your food processor. All right, now we have our 2 balls. And now you're gonna plastic wrap this. So we take our pie dough, put it in plastic, and then once we put that in there, this is actually my favorite part, I don't know why, but you shape it into a wider disc. I use my hand on the top to flatten that surface as I push my hands around the outside. And you want this to be even so that as you're rolling it out, you have this nice clean edge, and that helps to maintain your circle. I like to do this part in plastic because it helps the dough to prevent from breaking. So a lot of things people encounter when they're rolling out their pie dough at home is that it is crumbling and there's holes in it and frustration. A lot of these tips we've done today will create this beautiful pie dough so that as you are at home the next few weeks, you can make something delicious that you don't know, that you've never made for your family. All right, so now this goes into the fridge. Your pie dough should sit for at least an hour. You want it to be really easy to work with. A lot of the time, people do not refrigerate their dough long enough and then it is too sticky. It's hard to get into the pie plate. So just remember, these should go in until they're nice and solid for about an hour. Sometimes I leave them overnight. You can also freeze pie dough. So this can be in your freezer for a month to 2 months. All right, and we will be back to roll these out. Hi friends, welcome back. It has been 2 hours and now we are going to roll out our pie crust. So it is nice and firm. Step 1, I roll mine out between plastic first, helps to prevent baking and tearing. So I have a piece of saran wrap on my table, pie crust, put the one it was rolled in on top, and we are going to start with our rolling pin. Start in the middle and slowly work out. You're gonna do a couple turns, so we're gonna turn once, roll again, turn a second time, roll again, flip it over. All right, and if you do this without plastic, I've learned that is where the tearing begins. That is where holes are formed. So now you flour your board. Like I said earlier, if you're using granite, you may need a little bit more. It tends to stick to a granite surface or maybe formica. If you're rolling on, like a tile cutting board with grout in the middle, just God bless you, we'll need more than this. All right, you flour the bottom, the top, flour your rolling pin, and just keep rolling. You're gonna rotate as you go, kind of throw some flour underneath. Our goal here is to make it into a circle. That doesn't always happen, but we work with what we got. All right, friends, so if you look close, you can also see your beautiful pie crust has some nice little butter flakes in there. If you don't tear apart that butter like I showed you, you can have these bigger clumps, and as your pie crust cooks, holes will form in the bottom. So you want to see this just nice little speckle of butter across. All right, now putting it into your pie plate. I honestly just cut it and roll it in, flip it in half. Put my pie plate right here, pick it up, and unwrap it. All right, now you push down with one hand around the edges. You want all of your edges to be in the corners of your plate. And now my favorite part. I don't trim off too much of the excess. Here at 7 Acre, we like a nice thick crust. So you're gonna begin with just taking this excess, folding it under. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you kind of pinch and curl as you go until you have a nice lip all the way around. Pie is beautiful because you can either be a perfectionist or you can just have fun with it, and everything will be beautiful. You can spend hours braiding or just do a simple homey crimp like we're about to do. All right, now the best part. I do my pointer finger and my thumb, my pointer finger in this hand. And you push in. Go all the way around. All right, and there you go. It looks homey, it's going to bake beautifully. An important part is your second refrigeration. So we need to put this back into the fridge to cool. If you were to bake it right now, your pie crust would shrink. So you would see that it would kind of fall into your pie plate, and you would lose a lot of your crimping. So you want to bake it cold. Yeah, and there we go. Thanks for tuning in, friends. Welcome back, friends. I lied, I'm still here, and I wanted to show you what your beautiful pie can come out like. For this specific pie, I use that second pie crust to roll out a lattice. You can cut that with a knife, you can use a fun tool. Amazon's got all sorts of great things to improve your homemade pies. And hopefully later on we'll show you how to make our 7 Acre apple pie. Thanks again for tuning in, and can't wait to see you again.
Hey folks, thanks for watching our 7 Acre instructional videos. Like, comment and share to see more.
We miss serving you here at 7 Acre and can't wait to see you again soon.